So well guys, we'll move on to the next module, that is key management. So what exactly we'll be concentrating when it comes to key management is uh, how the key is generated, how do we store this key, and how this key will be distributed. So when I say distribution, here we are like I'm speaking with respect to the public key, okay, public key of any individual, and how to back up the keys. So all these four, when it is brought together, we call it as key management. So how exactly we'll be managing the key right from the stage of generating, storing, distributing, and backing up the keys. Okay, so before we would go into the details of all these topics, few things are very much necessary to be discussed. Okay, so the first thing that we are supposed to discuss is the key issues. Okay, so how does sender A know the B is public key? Okay, that is the question mark. So whenever we spoke about the public key and the private keys, I mean to say, when I was explaining you the concept of encryption, decryption, or when we discussed about Diffie-Hellman key exchange, so where we discussed about authentication, how do we authenticate a person is a valid person or not. So when all these things, when I was discussing, every time I used to say you a statement like like A will be aware of B public key, or B will be aware of A public key, they would have communicated securely. So all these things I would have said you verbally. Okay, so here now it's time to discuss, or now it's time for us to speak about how does the sender A know about the B's public key. How will he get to know that yes, this is B's public key, or as any attacker intruded in between and got to know about the public key. All these details actually will be discussing in this chapter. Okay, so when to answer this question, how does the sender A know about B's public key, the first possibility is A may frequently communicate with B in a secure fashion, so he may already have B's public key. Okay, so the first possibility is we will assume that A and B, they would have communicated before, like very frequently in a secured way, and that is how things work. But the problem again here is, if at any time B's private key is compromised, say for example, as I already stated, if the attacker or intruder managed to get the B's public key, or B's public key is compromised, then the confidentiality of message from A to B using corresponding public key can no longer be guaranteed. Okay, and the second problem is, what if the B has changed the is key pair, that is public key and private key pair, if it is changed, what then? That is one more question mark that appears. Okay, so this is one of the possibility, and this possibility is usually ruled out because it is really very difficult for anyone today to have a secure communication. So each and every communication channel could be like may be in secured way in which they can exchange the messages. Okay, the next possibility is we can just think of having a centralized directory. So a centralized directory, we might dream about having a centralized directory, and whenever I am in need of like if I wish to communicate to some X person, so if I want the public key, so I'll go reach the directory or the centralized directory, and I'll go get the required data. But again, the problem when it comes to the centralized directory is, first question is, who will maintain this directory, who will take the responsibility of maintaining this directory. And the second problem is the scalability. So you like think about the population we have, and think about two people wants to communicate in two remote areas, and they have to go fetch this one centralized directory. So maintaining one such centralized directory it's like The problem is with respect to the scalability. Okay, and one more thing is, as you all know, we have a type of attack known as denial of service attack. So if you can recall, in denial of service attack, what exactly we'll do. So we'll have a server. The server will be like the traffic to the server will be made intense by the attacker, so that the server seems to be very busy to the customers. So even such type of, even the spoofing attack could also happen. So these two attacks are very much expected when it comes to maintaining such centralized directory. Okay, and one more problem when it comes to the directory is, you can have multiple people having same name, like more than one person can have same name. So there comes the conflict. So if I'm requesting say for if I'm requesting for the public key of James, and if there are more than one person by name James, so there comes a big question mark. So who will maintain, how will you what work with such like two person? How do you differentiate? Say, you might say, ma'am, they might have the second name might be different. What if you end up with the second name as well, the same one? So there comes the problem. How will you find out a person uniquely, and who will do that? Who will be maintaining this centralized directory? All these questions will definitely arrive, but this is one of the good solution, but with lots of drawback. Okay, so next comes the possibility 3. So what is the possibility 3 is, A receives a document signed by a trusted source, but C containing B's public key. That is, C here, what I'm speaking about, the C is here a trusted source. Okay, so this trusted source, so A will receive document signed by a trusted source C. So the C will actually contain the B's public key. So now our discussion will be completely on this possibility 3. So how exactly, what exactly is the C? How will the C maintain the B's public key? How will it manage to sign and send it to A? How secure it is? So at least whether this possibility work. So this we'll be discussing in detail for this chapter completely. Okay, so coming to the solution, that is, what is the C is, first you need to understand the concept of digital certificates. Okay, so what is this digital certificate? Digital certificate means it is a signed document. Okay, so this document, what it contains is, it contains the public key to the identity of a person. Okay, so we'll be binding up the public key to the identity of a person. So when it comes to identity of a person, what are the identity? What identities are? It might be his name or her name, national identification number, email or postal address. If he is an employer, so his employee details, and one or more combination of these. Okay, so please try to understand, digital certificate means it is a document. Okay, that document is a signed document. What does the document contains? It contains public key and the identity of a person. Okay, these two things will be binded together in this piece of document. Fine. So now comes the question, identity. What do you mean by identity? So their identity is it could be his name or her name, national identification number, email or postal address, employer, if he is an employer, so for which organization he belongs to, all other details. You can rely on one of these identities, or you can go with combination of identity. Okay, so next question is, okay, fine, who will issue this certificate? So this certificate will be issued by a trusted entity. Okay, so trusted entity, when I say, it is it could be a certification authorization or registration authorization. What is this registration authorization? What is the certificate authority? I'll tell you. Okay, so when it comes to certificate authority, it could be some selected government agencies, or else it could be banks. Okay, we'll have we have there are a lot of government agencies run for this purpose, where they'll be maintaining all these sorts of public key, private key, and all this key generation concepts. So lot of online, if you have heard about bitcoins, so this bitcoins and all, you cannot just simply go and work on your own. Okay, so if say for example, if you are working with this purchasing of gold, the gold coins that you purchase online, the gold like the business that they do in with respect to the gold and all. So you can't simply blindly, like any customer is not allowed, or any individual is not simply allowed to go just do the business, or like buy the gold or work with the bitcoins. All this you have to get registered yourself to through some government agencies, and then only you'll be allowed to go and like do the business online, especially with respect to the bitcoins. Okay, so like in that perspective, we have like certain government agencies which really work on this concept of what maintaining your public keys, your credential details, all these things. Okay, so even some banks are also meant for this purpose. So in the next class I'll be letting you know about the details about the banks, which bank actually work on this, and which are the government agencies who really work on this. Okay, say if you tomorrow, if you come out with your own organization, and say yeah, and this and your organization is serving the society, so in those cases you are definitely allowed to coming up with your own encryption decryption keys, so that the people who are communicating with you will definitely have that secured feel. Okay, so how exactly all these things I'll be explaining you in detail in future classes. Okay, so next, coming to the different types of certificate. So one type of certificate what we have is the basic type of certificate. So this basic type of certificate is like trust at your own risk. Okay, this basic type of certificate is trust at your own risk certificate. So what do you mean by this is, you will simply apply or request for the certificate online. Okay, where you will not be providing any of your details. You will just simply request for a certificate of some person X. Okay, without providing your details. So you will get the certificate, but whether that certificate is a genuine one, whether the trusted people have provided you, those things will not be guaranteed. Okay, so even the intruder might have sent you the certificate looking into your request, or anything could happen. So the next type is you will be requesting for the certificate providing your credentials, like passport or driving license details. So any such details you have to provide, and then request for the certificate. And the third type of certificate what we have is, so as an applicant you will be applying for the certificate. Okay, requesting for the certificate of some X person. So in that case you have to provide your public key and private key, all those details. Okay, so the trusted entity, what it does is, the trusted people, what they do is, they'll send you a encrypted message using your public key. Okay, so you have to decrypt that using your what, private key, and using that key later on, I mean to say the decrypted message, that decrypted message you have to send it back to them. So then those people can trust, okay fine, you are the secured one, and you are the one, you are the authorized person. So then they'll send you the requested certificate. So I'll repeat you the third possibility. So in the third possibility, what exactly will be doing here is, as a person, I'll request for the certificate. Okay, so once after I request for the certificate, so then the certificate authority people, they'll send me a encrypted message. So that encrypted message will be encrypted using my public key. Okay, so I have to decrypt it using my private key and send back that message saying that yes, I am the authorized one. Okay, so that is how then the certificate will be sent. And these type of certificates, you know, like very less people prefer, because we have to provide our secure details, and also it is very less in demand. Okay, so next, what is a certificate? Okay, so electronic document that contains information. So don't jump to a conclusion, okay fine, the certificate looks something like this. No, it is not like that. It is an electronic document that contains the information like who issued the certificate, like who issued the certificate, who the certificate is issued to, and the valid period, the public key, and the digital signature. Okay, so this who issued the certificate, that one thing. Okay, who the certificate is issued to whom the certificate is actually issued to, and the certificates will be valid only for a certain period of time. So what is the period of time it is valid, and the public key details will be in that certificate. And finally, digital signature of this certificate will be signed by this certificate authority people. Okay, so we have an example here. Yeah, this X.509 digital certificate. Okay, so what is this format, or how the certificate actually looks? Okay, so this X.509 is an ITU standard, or you can also, ITU is what, International Telecommunication Union. Okay, so this is a standard. X.509 is a standard. This is an ITU standard, or a public key cryptography standards, specifying the format for public key certificates. Okay, so first thing, what the certificate contains is, the certificate contains the serial number and version for each and every certificate that gets provided. So that certificate will be associated with a serial number and a version. Okay, second is the issuer name. So which, as I said, we don't have one centralized authority, but instead we have a lot of government agencies running for this purpose. So from which government agency is this certificate issued, so their details will be provided. Okay, so we'll have the distinguished name of the entity, I mean to say some common name will be there. So that name, their email address, the organization to which they belong to, and in which country. Okay, next, subject information. So when I say subject information is, say for example guys, if you are requesting for say here as an example specified, BMart. Okay, say if you want to communicate with the BMart people, and you will send a request for the certificate. Okay, so the subject information now, it includes the details of the owner. Okay, the BMart, if I'm requesting for BMart detail, will be present in this field, that is subject information. See, if I'm sitting in my system and I'm browsing, okay, and I'm requesting for what, BMart certificate. So what my client end browser, I mean to say the browser in which I'm relying on, what that browser does is, it will look into the certificate. Okay, so all these things happens in the background, where you which will not come to your notice. Okay, all these things happens in the background. So the browser will go look into the certificate. Okay, it will fetch the certificate, in that certificate what it does is it will just match whether the domain name specified in the certificate and the URL that it is referring to, where it is getting redirected. So whether those two things match, that is what the browser look into. Okay, so certificate, whatever I'm speaking about the certificate from the beginning, those certificates will not actually you guys receive it. It is an electronic document which is actually generated, and those things, that certificate will be used by your browser rather than you people taking the document, decrypting, encrypting, all these things. You will never feel it. All these things will happen just in a fraction of time, and all this will definitely happen. Okay, so subject information is the person to whom I'm referring to. Okay, so next is subject public key information. So what actually we're looking for, the public key, isn't it? Those public key information will be present in that certificate. Okay, so as you can see here, you'll have the version, certificate serial number, and certificate algorithm, the issuer name, validity. Next is to what period of time is the certificate is valid for. Okay, and which algorithm they have relied on, and like issuer's unique identifier, subject unique identifier, and next the extensions, the algorithm used. So this is the version what we have. So we have lot of versions. It was not like all of a sudden it came out. We have lot of versions, so you can just see the versions here. Any of this is not there in your syllabus, but still it is good if you get to know. Okay, so signature algorithm identifier. Next is subjects public informations, signature present in all versions. So algorithm, parameters, encrypted hash. Okay, so next, as I was already specifying, validity period will be there, start and end date between which the certificate is valid, and finally the certificate will be signed by the issuer. Okay, so if you want to know what is there within the certificate, you need to decrypt it. I mean to say, you need to, the signature, whatever it is there, so that they'll be doing using the private key, if you remember signature concept. Okay, the issuer would have encrypted it using his private key, so you have to use his public key, decrypt it, and then fetch the data that is present within the certificate. Now again there is a big question mark. How do I know the public key of the issuer? Okay, but any of that we'll definitely discuss. Okay, so this is a sample certificate. This is how the certificate looks. Say for example the version is 1, serial number say some 3174. This is the 3174th certificate issued. So signature algorithm uses MD5. So this MD5 is very much similar to your which algorithm we had already discussed, SHA1. So before to SHA1 we had this MD5, and this SHA1 and MD5 have got lot of similarity. Okay, so this MD5 with RSA encryption, it is being used. This is a signature algorithm, and see the issuer, so the country they belong to, it is India. The state is Maharashtra, and the location is Mumbai, and within Mumbai the local the security center they are referring to, the enterprise security, and the security center, so their email address. So all these things will be present in the second field. That is what I said before. See, issuer information, we will have the email address, organization, country, all these things. Okay, that is what is there here. Next, validity. So from start to end time, that will be specified here. And finally the subject, what I was referring to. Okay, so the subject, his information, say like even this subject, that belongs to India, the state is Goa, so in Goa, Madgaon. So which is the organization? The organization is Ocean Enterprises. And next we have IT consulting. Next the Ocean, their, I mean to say, their email address. Okay, and the public key, the public key of this subject, the public key is it has been generated using RSA encryption. So the public key is of 1024 bit, and even the modulus is also 1024 bit, and this is the key that is actually that is generated using this RSA encryption. So next, finally, the signature to sign this MD5, even for that we have a key, isn't? So that key they have specified here. Okay, so this is how the certificate look. As I already specified, here such type of certificate will not be provided to hand. Okay, so this will actually be received by the browser when you are communicating. So it is being provided to the browser. See, I can't simply go and shop in Amazon, or I can't go simply shop in anywhere. Okay, so what is that you guys have to do? We have to first get what? Registered. Okay, we'll be provided with our own a unique login password, and even when doing your online shopping and all, you'll be providing all your credentials. Okay, so how do you believe, how do you say that it is secured? How things are happening so securely on over the network? It is all because of such encryption decryption algorithms and such type of cryptographies, cryptographic details that are being incorporated across the network. Okay, all these set, like when you shop using your on Amazon or any Flipkart or any online shopping that you do, each and every the end users we have, the vendors we have, the people who are literally working on that. So though across the network, when you browse, your browser will request for the certificate, that person will provide the certificate, he'll decrypt it, he'll encrypt it. All these encryption decryption, whatever you are learning now, all these are being deployed across the network, and these things will not brought into the notice of the customer who is actually making use of it. Okay, so there comes, that is the beauty of cryptography. Okay, never I can just go and say that yes, it has been deployed here, this is how you can feel it, this is how it looks. These things will never brought to your notice. You simply enjoy shopping, but you say that yes, it is secured, but how do you, how the trust or who exactly is keeping up that trust is these cryptographic algorithms. Okay, and this is just a simple certificate we discussed about. Okay, so finally, to speak about the digital certificates, the last topic in digital certificates is so the digital certificate in action. So assume that A needs to securely transmit a session key to B. Okay, so he encrypts it with B's public key, isn't it? So A will need to retrieve the public key from B's certificate. So he check whether the certificate contains B's name, and also A should check if the certificate is still valid. Okay, so what I am trying to explain you here is, say if A is being provided with a certificate, but still A cannot blindly accept that okay, it is B's certificate. Like as a genuine person, you have to look into certain fields. So what are the fields that you are supposed to look into is, first thing is this indeed B's certificate? Okay, you have to cross check whether yes, is this B's certificate. As I was explaining you before, when the BMAT certificate is requested, the browser will go look into its domain name in the certificate, specified in the certificate, and it will also look into the URL. If the domain name in the URL and in the certificate it matches, then only it will accept okay, this certificate truly belongs to BMAT. Okay, so that is the first step as a sender should do. Okay, second, you have to look into the validity